Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
Paul Rossi.
Yeah, my
drag
first day was a lot of this, and a lot of them back there going,
Stop wailing on the table.
that.
All right,
So, yes.
We're ready? We're rolling? We're good? So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith, without Jeff Smith. Unfortunately, Jeff is not here, and Cam Benty is not here, but I do have Jason, the man Jason. Tell us all about you, Jason. That's good. Okay.
Good.
And Jason has been on a whole bunch of stuff. If you watch TV, he's on Dirt every day.
I was director on Dirt every day.
Weren't you on it?
I've been in a few,
Okay.
but yeah. But
And
I have,
then the YouTube stuff.
I have a YouTube channel called Auto Edits Jason, and just do general automotive how-to and encourage people to live the the automotive enthusiast lifestyle.
Yeah, Broken on Fire. Got
Yes.
it.
Sounds right.
He laughs. He's like, that sounds oddly familiar.
That sounds right, yeah.
So we are going to let you introduce yourself. You are?
My name is Leslie Kendall. I am the chief historian of the Petersen Automotive Museum.
This place that we're in right now.
Yeah, we
Which
are.
is where we are.
We
Yes,
are.
yeah.
Oh, actually, I have, before I get too far, we are in the Petersen Automotive Museum. Thank you to them. And also thank you to our sponsor, arp-bolts.com, the best hardware and fasteners in the world, especially if you're in the world of motorsports.
I can attest to that.
Oh, indeed.
They're gold.
Best stuff, period.
Yeah.
Go there, buy stuff, put it on your car, be happy. Or your boat, or your plane, or anything. So I am ecstatic to actually meet you because I am an amateur. I have a reference library at home. I am a nut with reading anything automotive. I have, very proudly, every issue of Hot Rod magazine since its inception. I also have every issue of Evo magazine from over the pond, more of a supercar, sports car magazine.
Sure.
And everything in between, from the 60s of Superstock magazine to Carcraft to every one of the Rodder's journals, you name it. I love it, and I am not stuck in a lane. I love muscle cars. I love hot rods. I love supercars. I love sports cars. I love IMSA.
Outstanding. That's
but it's
great.
been very
Well-rounded.
helpful when designing and building cars because there's all these different ideas to pull from. Steve Stanford, the artist extraordinaire, and one of my favorite walking the planet, he and I have had many discussions where I was fascinated because he's such a brilliant individual, let alone his artistic talent. But it's also just the ideas themselves before put on the paper. And I found in talking to him that he's kind of sort of like me, very into the magazines, into the books, into the constantly looking when he was younger and all the way to now. But when he sees a car, he compartmentalizes. He doesn't see the Corvair. He sees the A pillar and the B pillar and the roof line.
He breaks it down into its components.
He puts it, how we wound up discussing it and how he kind of described it is it goes into different files. So later when he drew that 69 Camaro with the Corvair roof, because he was like, that Corvair roof is thinner A pillar, thinner sail panel, that looks so cool, and then I'm gonna put, this and that from an Impala, and he blends it so masterfully. But the first step is even knowing those different parts to even bring them in to a concoction of an idea. So we both agreed to step back into the history thing. We both agreed that reading and perusing constantly, filling that idea cabinet with images of different styles, different forms of motorsport, and different cars give different aggression or beauty, being one of these things like behind us. And then squirreling that away to hopefully use later. So being historian, would that be accurate? Like when did that start, or when did you like doing it? That was always, I always liked doing that. Where did that come from?
I started here in 1993, and then the museum opened in 1994. So I was
Yes.
here about a year and a half before it opened.
When it had the big monster truck out front.
We had a truck on a stick.
That's
it was,
right.
Yeah, the monster truck out on a front.
Johnny,
That's kind
Johnny
of,
Rockets under it.
and Johnny Rockets was there.
Yeah.
Before that, we were actually an Arco AM/PM mini mart. So that's how far here. That's how far back that goes. It's evolved, and now
Yeah, I could say
now it's Myers
Couple of
Meg's
changes.
Cafe. It's it's a pretty classy place now. But I started out managing the collection, then I was appointed chief curator after about 6 or 8 months after we opened, and then I segued from chief curator to chief historian about 10 years ago. And now my role here is as a research historian. In fact, I'm writing a book right now, in fact. It's coming out hopefully within the next several months. I'm not really sure when. It's called Defying Detroit Automobile Manufacturing in Southern California. Takes a look at the 10 Southern California counties
Ooh,
and
yeah.
all
So
of the
where
automobiles.
The Camaros were made.
Yeah, and not just Camaros,
Right.
but cars that were indigenous, that were like the Duro car that was made in Los Angeles,
Sure.
and others.
Wow. So, of course, because of the show, I know Cam Benty.
You would.
Yeah, by default, right? And I know he is also working downstairs.
He is.
In the vault. Now, is he assisting you or doing something very different?
He's not assisting me directly, but he's assisting our archival department with photo identification, and
Which I love.
Which I think I like. That's a lot of fun for me to identify things, or try to. Sometimes you can't, which is.
He has called me up and said, "You'll never guess the photos I just found." And it's of so-and-so at this track, and no one's ever seen, and I get stoked too. I'm like, well, take a picture with your phone. Show me that.
He's
right?
a great guy for that exact role because of his depth of knowledge and being there at that time and being passionate about it. So he's a good candidate for going through those things.
That's what it takes, somebody to do it right, because researchers are going to come in, are going to look at keywords,
right.
And if you get it wrong, somebody's going to miss out on something
Right.
that's potentially very important.
Yeah, and you guys have got an unbelievable treasure trove sitting downstairs
We do
that
indeed.
needs to still get massively waded through.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a large collection of information.
Yeah.
But just the slides.
Yeah, just the transparencies.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, we were.
That'd make an awesome book, just the slides of the Petersen.
Well, it'd be a lot of slides because there are 10
I get a
million
percentage of that.
There are 10 million slides that we got. We've only
Oh, yeah. That's
only
a lot.
digitized 1 million, only 1 million. So we've got 9 million to go. So my hunch is there's some gems still in there.
Okay.
Cam's going to have his work cut out for him.
How far back do the slides go? All the way to 47?
They go back to the 50s. Well, some of them do.
Really?
I would think. I haven't seen any from 1947, but I cannot imagine that there aren't at least a couple that date back to the very beginning, maybe even before that.
That's so cool.
It is cool.
What a neat job. It's like unearthing the tomb of a mummy.
Well, to
or
be
finding
entrusted with that resource, Mr. Petersen started the museum. He started the magazine, and they thought, well, it makes perfect sense. He's gone. His legacy lives on in so many magazines and in this building.
If I may ask, how does someone like you get passionate enough about automobile culture, lifestyle, or whatever to go into the history or make that your career? Like, how do you become this? Like, and you went from curator to historian, and so now.
And that was a wanted thing? Like, they didn't say, be a historian, you went, oh, okay.
Well, they needed somebody to fill that role, so
Right.
it made sense for me to step into it.
Okay.
So I absolutely no
But
problem.
you had curiosity into history. You enjoyed
Well, yeah,
that.
what I can tell you is some people think it's a joke, but it's not. I was the only first grade student who knew what a Bugatti was.
Oh, me and you'll get along.
Yeah, I had a hunch. And every report, every oral report, every written essay I had to do on a research project, I made sure it had something to do with cars. Otherwise, it wouldn't capture my interest. Even my psychology papers, I had figured out how to connect them to 57 Thunderbird.
Do you know when in your life that or what it was in your
Apparently
life?
at birth.
Yeah, sounds like it, right? But what
I don't
was
know.
it
It's
that
like
kind of got that or
Well,
something?
my mother, she said that she would buy me Matchbox cars.
Yeah.
You know, she said I would just take them and I would move them along and just watch them move. Wow. You know, because I think what's exciting to me is motion through space and how you can participate in that. You can wrap yourself in a beautiful form with a kind of mechanical artistry to behind its
What an
creation.
interesting perspective.
Right? And that's
I build that, but I don't look at it that way.
right.
It's,
I'm more like a caveman. That looks bitchin'.
well, people.
Sounds
I mean,
good, goes fast.
you look
Sounds
at
good,
it-
goes fast, yes.
You look at clothes on a hanger, that looks bitchin', then you wrap yourself in them eventually.
okay,
And cars
true.
in Los Angeles are our outermost layer of clothing. In New York, it's expensive handbags and overcoats. In LA, it's cars.
Wow. Now, do you find that
that's a
a
good
very
statement.
Southern California trait, though? I find myself, being from Southern California, born and raised here, that was an easy, I was the same way as a child, like pots and pans with the shoe polish track on the kitchen floor and making a mess, but cars from day one. But
Oh, yeah.
do you think that there's a bit of that in there, that your Southern California roots would do?
Yeah, you can't help but at least be exposed to cars to a greater degree than I'll say virtually anywhere else, because Southern California is so automotive centric. It's a capital of car culture.
And that's why this New York boy
consumption,
is out
creativity.
here. I moved out here
A
in
lot of people-
95, 4 cars.
People move from all over the world to Southern California. This is where it's at.
It is.
The,
Still is.
Well, the Art Center
Especially
College
for-
of Design is here. People,
Right.
come here to participate in Southern California culture.
Also,
and know
luckily,
what the
like-
excitement's about.
11 and a half months out of the year, it's nice enough to own a convertible or
And
something
really
nice, and you can
appreciate it.
actually go drive it, right?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
that helps.
Yes.
It's great
helps.
convertible weather. You're absolutely right.
So walk me through, I don't know about a day, walk me through a week of the different varieties of things you touch at work. Not touch, but I'm doing this, I'm making sure that happens, I'm checking the history about that. Is it, when something comes into the museum, are you involved with that and learning the history of that vehicle before it gets put in place?
A lot of it's proactive, things that I instigate, personal research projects. and
Example.
Museum.
What would that
Well,
be?
like the book,
Okay.
for example. And
Will the
other
book be
things.
sold here? I'm assuming.
I hope they would carry it.
Well, hey,
My ambition is for them to do so. I'm
Good.
sure they will. I have a hunch.
Okay.
I know people here, so
well,
You have some
handy,
connections, yeah.
handy.
yeah.
But other examples, like what are you in charge with? Are you seeking out ideas to better? Are you investigating things that were here to learn more?
Well,
How does
I
that-
research cars that we already have. For example, the provenance of cars that are purported to have been owned by people whose name one would recognize. Some of them have turned out not to be that way.
Fact checking.
Fact checking, yeah, and verifying the provenance of vehicles and researching label copy. Label copy is the written words that are on the placard sitting by the car.
Right.
Researching that, researching exhibits in general, researching photos, coming up with ideas for exhibits. I've done 150 when I was original ideas
Right.
for exhibits while I was curator, and now I'm happy to say I've contributed to dozens more.
So a question, a little while ago, there was a really nice Porsche display. Was that something you and your team or just you think of, or did Porsche come to you and say, hey, we'd like to?
Well, we did our first Porsche exhibit in 1998.
Right.
When Porsche wasn't as old as it is now. And they had, we didn't have the selection that we did now. And believe it or not, 1998, there really wasn't the passion for Porsches that there is now. Now it's just incredible. Everybody
off the
wants
scale,
a Porsche.
yeah.
No matter how beat up it is, it's worth
Right.
a lot more than I have on me right now.
So backing up though, the latest one that was here, who instigated that? Was that a brainchild of yours
That
or
was-
someone in here, or did Porsche?
Well,
come
I'd
to you?
like to think that at least they thought about the previous exhibit, but my hunch is it was, we have a team that develops exhibits. It's not just me. In fact, it's
Understood.
right now it's very little. I have very little to do with it.
Oh.
It's developed by our exhibits department, led by Brian Stevens.
Okay.
And who's kind of in charge of blending the cars with the exhibits to make the engaging presentation.
Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP-bolts.com. We got a fantastic little backdrop here. They make an outstanding series of bolts, almost anything you would need for engines, chassis, things like that. In fact, we were at lunch today, and a guy asked you about the bolt on the back of your shirt, and and I said, well, it's really about a head bolt. They neck the stem down of the bolt on a small block Chevy head bolt, so the clamp load is even across 3 different head bolt lengths on a small block Chevy. And, so that's the kind of technology that you get out of ARP. And we've all got stories on all that stuff.
Well, for a translation of what he said, call arpbolts.com.
But the message is that you can't get any better than that.
No, you cannot.
There you go.
Excellent.
We'd like to thank our friends at InTheGarageMedia.com. They have 3 fantastic magazines. They've got Classic Truck Performance, they have Modern Rotting, and my favorite, All Chevy Performance with Nick, my buddy Nick, is the editor.
Biased.
So, yes, of course. But it's a fantastic book. They're doing print media, which is, of course, our favorite. So
In color and everything.
In color and everything, and you can get your car on the cover of one of those books, which is a fun
that's a
deal.
lot.
Great tech.
Great
written
tech.
by you
know,
and
not
others
always
that are
written by me,
famous
but
people.
Yeah,
Famous people
Not
have written all the
always
tech.
written by me.
That's right.
Just
So
pick it
check
up and
them
read
out
it.
at InTheGarageMedia.com, and they're our friends, and they will thank you.
When you were a curator, though, I'm very curious as to, since cars are subjective, like the beauty and the styles are everybody has their personalized taste. How do you curate? How do you create an exhibit that you think will be viable or popular?
Or the masses.
Right? Yeah. Like how do you do that? What do you go through?
Well, the first thing you do is, it's when you're sitting there working, you don't have anything to do. It's like, well, what's my job description? What am I supposed to be doing? I look at this and I see, what's our mission? What are we here to do? The Petersen Automotive Museum exists to explore and present the history of the automobile and its impact on global life and culture, using Los Angeles as a prime example. So let's do that. And we're incredibly fortunate because Los Angeles is so ecumenical, it's so accepting of every automotive taste. We can do virtually anything. I don't think we're going to have a bus exhibit anytime soon because we're not
Or Yugos.
really. We've had a Yugo exhibit.
Did
here.
you?
We've had. It was called
Somehow
Yugo
I
Next.
missed
got you. Yeah.
Somehow I missed that one.
He got you.
It was It was in the
did
very
get it.
early days. It was called Yugo Next. It was an art exhibit,
Yep.
and it was artists that turned Yugos into different things. For example, a toaster
I remember
or a
that.
cathedral.
It was a while ago, but yes.
It was
that
sometime. It was 30
yeah,
years ago
yeah, that
almost.
I grew up here. It was a thing.
So, to your point, I had mentioned the Porsche display you had, and the place is so flexible and LA is so accepting. Downstairs right now, it's lowriders.
Yeah.
And that is a very juxtaposed from high-end
And that's our
Porsches.
4th lowrider exhibit. We don't like to revisit things, but when there's a call for it, if you're not serving
Well,
the
it's
public,
massively
what are
LA
you doing
culture.
here? Yeah, so
Massive.
And we want to serve the public, and it's LA culture. It's Hispanic, but it overlaps into a lot of other cultures too. And we present that. We present lowrider art in conjunction with the cars, and the cars are just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of workmanship.
Yeah, I highly recommend
The
A
artistry.
lot of work.
anybody who's a car guy at all to
Let
come.
alone just the paint.
Yeah, I mean, it is artwork down there. It is all.
Indeed,
you
it
know,
is.
like
I
all-
mean,
a
if
lot
you
of
took
cars.
even a square foot of
Yeah.
the body, you look at it. It's
If you take the time, I think we were talking earlier, the car guys sometimes tend to go, that's not my thing, I don't like that. But when you just take that time to pour over the craftsmanship, the effort, and that goes into those cars, and really, you can appreciate it. I mean, you can spend quite a bit of time down there
Well,
looking at those
there's
cars.
a lot going on.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's
lot of artistry.
like you say, and then
Ooh.
they're rolling artwork that still is something that's adds to that level of it.
That's something that people do in California. They decorate their cars, and that's just lowrider. But there are a variety of car called art car, and that's what people like. They glue stuff all to them, which doesn't always turn out so well. But the people with a more artistic bent are better at it
A flair.
than others, and that's another way to express your
taste.
your singleness,
Yeah.
your uniqueness.
Have you developed what are the cars that you have kind of gravitated towards, or things that are obviously Bugatti kind of resonated with you as a child? But what is it called?
I have to tell you, and this is not a cop out, but I really like everything.
Okay.
I really like everything
Same.
because I look at it and these are all things that you can interact with in different places at different times. You look at an original four-wheel, drive Bronco from the 60s, and
Right.
you can picture yourself out there, being in maybe on the sand at some
Driving
dune or
around
something
somewhere
like that,
in Pismo.
doing somewhere, causing a little trouble maybe. And the dune buggy, Myers-Manx dune buggy, was born here.
Sure.
Southern California. It's the fiberglass dune buggy is a Southern California. In fact, the dune buggy is a Southern California invention. It was first built in Riverside.
First location.
First
Was
location.
that Myers or just a dune buggy?
No. It was. I'll have to think of it. The name's not coming to me right now, but
Year?
it was a steel body. Steel body.
What year?
63, 64.
When
It
was Manx?
Right before Manx. Manx was the next
64.
year.
Oh, he was covering Hot Rod when he came out too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yep,
It was all the flying Manxes. You could see
Yeah,
every image
all
was
four wheels
with
off
all
on the cover.
four wheels
Yeah.
off of the cover. Yeah.
Which I know that cover. That's cool. So, okay, all right. Since I love a wide variety of vehicles also.
Okay.
So, budget is not a problem.
Oh boy.
You're
Okay.
allowed.
I know, I like this.
You're allowed, well.
I like where you're
we're-
going.
We're going to go with two.
Okay.
One that unfortunately can just sit. It can be
Okay.
it can be in your living room if it has to.
Okay.
It's allowed. The other one has to be used and driven.
Okay.
Anything you want, any car, anything ever manufactured.
Well,
And one can be pampered and babied if you want. Or you
they'll
could drive
they'll
both.
both be babied hopefully.
Well, okay. But one has to be driven. You got to be able to be used.
The one that first comes to mind it's called the Cisitalia.
Mm-hmm.
It was bodied by Pininfarina, the definitive
Yes, I know
Italian
who that is.
automobile.
Yes.
And that came out in 1947. They only made 170 of the coupes. It was the archetypical road car. It's Pininfarina. It was the a lot of people say the first modern car because it was a marvelous shape.
It was enclosed?
It was closed. It was a
wasn't
little
fendered?
fastback coupe. With a shell over the mechanical components. It was Cisitalia, CIS Italia, Consortione Industriale Sportiva Italia. Don't worry, it won't be on the final.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I will
Okay.
fail.
This is like, you took this to the next
So
level.
how
I
many
love it.
made?
Yeah.
170 of
Not a
the
lot.
of the coupe, and they were very expensive. They're frightfully expensive.
And that was the
About
chassis?
$5,000 brand new
Then,
for what essentially amounted to a Fiat with an 1100 engine that would still go 100 miles an hour because of its aerodynamics. But it's really a car that and I've driven it in
Have you?
in Pebble. We cars are more than just things to be admired. Although they're artistic qualities, like any art piece, they're meant to be contemplated too. You just stare at, look at it, and enjoy the beautiful form like that. That's
Where
look
the
around.
round
I mean,
door
look
was,
around.
yeah.
I mean, these things are incredible. But it also drives well. It appeals to all my sense. It's not big. It's not huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a car you kind of slip into, like a comfortable shoe.
so color?
Italian leather.
Again, you can have it anything you
No,
want.
no. I would take the one that we have. It's deep maroon in color, which is the original color.
It's down in the
You
vault
guys,
right now.
guys gotta make sure we get it. Oh, it's
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's in the room. It's in the room.
you know you work here.
Well, it's sometimes
back in the-
sometimes we switch out exhibits,
It's the
which
back-
kind of
the
keeps
back
things
corner?
interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I know the one.
Yeah.
I know exactly what it is. It's maroon, and it looks kind of sort of like an early Ferrari, kind of sort of.
Well, the Ferrari looks like an early
Fair
Cisitalia, I
enough.
would say.
Fair enough,
Yeah.
because that was first
Yes.
for Pininfarina. That was before. Well, when did they?
That
start
was
with
before
Ferrari?
Pininfarina. Ferrari ultimately landed on Pininfarina as a preferred coach builder after a
Right.
while. It took them, we went to Alamano,
They didn't go to Bertone, did they?
Vignale. They did only a couple of Bertone bodies. They did a 250 GT and, maybe a couple of others, but not many. Oh, now you're going to ask me about my driving.
Yeah.
When I
They
would
get in it all the
I
time.
wanna-
What would you foodle about?
I take these really seriously.
I love it.
I mean it seriously.
Take it,
But
all the
hey,
way with it. Yeah.
He said the Bronco. What a fun.
Yeah.
That's not it for him, but what a super early '60s or
Yeah.
in the late '60s Bronco would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Right? But what would that be?
Well, for how about the car behind us?
Would you? Yeah, if that'll drive every day, I guess so.
I've driven. There's nothing wrong with that's a great driver's car.
Really not.
It's a straight A, 3.3 liter, supercharged,
it's nice and smooth.
double overhead cam engine, 3-speed gearbox. It's light to the touch.
It's got a good taste.
Yeah.
It's light to the. It is
And
voluptuous.
unlike us, he's driven it.
He has access that most humans don't have.
Keep in
I
mind.
don't know if that drives nice or not.
Yeah. And we'll never.
Keep in mind that automobiles have a functional component, and they can only be fully understood when they're operating. There's a mechanical artistry to the mechanism, and there's also a fleet beauty to the form. And like I say, like I said a little bit earlier, maybe when you see something moving, it's just, I don't know what the bigger thrill is, driving it and
Or watching
and
it.
experience, watching it or riding in it. Can be fun too, because you get to look at other people's reaction, like a round door rolls.
Oh yeah, that's
Which
crazy.
all these cars happen to be in here, which it's the only car I have ever seen people in Los Angeles stop. Almost everybody without it stop on the sidewalk and watch it go by. They cannot believe that something like that was built, and it was built in 1934.
It has a commanding presence for sure.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Like understatement.
And it's, just to sound ignorant, it's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
34. It's 2024 right now. It's 90 years old.
Yeah.
What's surprising to me, this used to be, I forget where it was, if it was downstairs, because I've been filming on and off here since 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I've filmed
Yeah.
down to the basement.
Yeah, of course.
I filmed with our show America Now here
Sure.
on the second floor. I did the Carcraft Radio on the second floor when it used to be the movie TV thing. I
That's
was back
right.
there in the corner.
You bet.
But somebody was either cleaning it, working on it, whatevering it when I saw it, and the doors were open. And it's surprising for how monstrous that car is. You'd think the inside would be the size of a stretch limo,
Yeah.
and it's not at all.
No.
It's like,
Well, it's very, very comfortable in the front. It's very difficult to drive because keep in mind, if the chassis is 1925, but the owner in 1934, the owner of that vehicle had the body thrown away and had that body built in 1934. Because
Who
when a
did the
Rolls
body on
Royce,
that one?
Jonckera of Belgium, they make coaches, buses.
that thing's still
passenger
stunning
buses.
as can be.
Oh, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. But I've been on tours with that car, sitting in the back. I'm not even 5'8", and I have to slouch
Right,
to avoid hitting my
Maybe
head
the
on
kids.
the
Yeah.
on the headliner.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's our
It's a perfect
daily
car
right
for
here.
toddlers.
This is our
I guess.
daily.
I like that. Yeah. Well, no, the daily's this one's right here.
This is the
Yeah,
daily.
yeah,
The
got
maroon
it.
one out in the corner, that's
Yeah,
special. This
Sure.
one, right here,
Actually,
we'll
they'd
chuck
be
it around.
interchangeable
right.
for me. I'd want to experience. See, it kind of the means and the extremes. They're both voluptuous in their own way. The French,
Sure.
the French Art Deco school and the Italian school of
Sporty, kinda.
well, sporty but concise and
Sure.
and dynamic.
There's something-
It's taught. It's like somebody shrink wrapped that body around the chassis. It's no more than it absolutely needs to be.
No waste.
No, well, true. That's probably a good way to say it. And the French car is completely the opposite. It's voluptuous as you could be. Let's put curves. Let's put
Right.
chrome.
Space be damned.
Stretch it out here, stretch it out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, built for the Shah of Iran. So
Right.
when he was the Prince of
Well, that
Persia.
explains the license plate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That wasn't.
I find it amazing that here we are in a museum, and you're one of the you were a curator in here, and you talk so much about cars in motion. Something really cool about that we see
Yeah,
them all
because
here
in
static.
museums, you don't think about a car in
Yeah,
motion.
but that you appreciate them in motion and appreciate that that's what they were for, even
Well,
though we see them here all
That's
sitting
the only
on-
way I would see them when I was a kid growing up. I saw my first Ferrari Barchetta on the road. I was walking one of the horse trails in our, in the neighborhood I grew up, and I heard it sounded like a motorcycle, and I thought, well, that's a, small bore engine. I was, in grammar school, and then I looked and I thought, why? It went by. I thought, oh my God! And then I talked to a gentleman later who owned a restoration shop in the San Diego area, and he said that was me, driving that car through town.
And so it begins.
Yeah, I mean,
but it actually began before that. I had the affliction
Sure.
along.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I have, well, I didn't have a Ferrari. If you only knew where I'm from, there's no.
I never had one either.
I am from a very, 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 very small farm town in upstate New York called Appalachian, known for a large mafia bust in 1957.
Yeah. And you.
And me.
And you, right, yeah.
Thank you, but I had two cars that really affected me, and Matchbox and Hot Wheels, for sure. But two real cars, because there wasn't a lot of car activity. They were around, but everything gets rusted away, and it's not like SoCal where there's hot rod shops and stuff like that.
The diversity was much.
Right. So I had my cousin who had an early 70s Camaro, and he drove it all year, so only in the spring would it emerge. So it's a black car, and in the spring, he's got the hijacker air shocks, Kraggers, Indy SS profile tires, Hooker side pipes, and it's the coolest thing. I would sit there because my grandmother's house is next to my uncle's house where the cousin would be, and I just sit there on my grandma's porch and just look at it, and just think it's just the coolest thing, right? And I went to this tiny little school. Literally, the 12 kids in 8th grade graduated and became the 12 kids in 9th grade next year. Very small school. And in 6th grade, I drew this Roadrunner for art. It's one of the only A's I ever got.
Okay.
But there was a senior that had a black on black 68 Roadrunner. It had 440 in it, stick in it, aluminum slots on it, and up here's where the kids parked in the parking lot, and down here's where I'd get on the bus. And I would almost miss the bus every day because I stood up there and waited to hear him fire it up and just watch him drive out. He didn't leave like a lunatic. He didn't burn out or anything.
Yeah.
But just to hear it go, ta, 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 ta,
Well,
right?
you had an appreciation for that. Cars exemplify so many things: power and authority and grace,
and freedom,
and freedom. That's part of the car culture.
Yeah.
For us here in Southern California, since everything was so spread out,
Yeah.
it was key
Well, in
to
America,
yours.
everything is so spread out. Yeah. America is a huge place, and without the car, we wouldn't have developed. Eisenhower wouldn't have needed to worry about the freeways.
Right.
Good thing he did.
Indeed. I have to parlay to you. See, I get to skip this. But super cool, unlimited car, drive it every day car.
Gosh, I can't follow that.
Yes, you can.
It's like
It's okay. He's wine, you're Kool-Aid. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
You got really good taste. How's that? No. And you've been around some very tasteful vehicles.
It's hard not to pick what you're sitting in front of.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and you have. It sounds like you.
So
have,
that's fair. You can pick anything in the museum.
Well,
No, not that one, though.
McQueen's Jag over there is
That
kind
would
of
do.
Like,
That would be a
Steve
nice
McQueen's
stand-in.
Jag is sitting over
That's
there.
a
and
fabulous car.
Is absolutely. It sounds amazing. You guys just posted on Instagram literally today or maybe yesterday, and I just played it 18 times of it.
That
just
used to be
sitting there
downstairs
idling.
for the longest time because I used to see it all the time when I was down there filming.
Yeah, well, we have the vault where we keep
Right,
cars that are not on
yeah.
display upstairs, and people go to the vault and they.
But that was before
they
you
see
opened
what's
the
not on
vault.
formal display. Well, you're right. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Before we open the vault to people at
public.
on a regular basis.
Right.
Before it was tours only.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
Well-
that's one.
So boring, but my daily would just be I drove a 2003 last year of the Aston manual V12 Vantage. I just loved that car. It was the epitome.
Vantage is V8. The 12 one. You are
yeah,
correct. I
yeah.
know exactly
So,
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Lovely
and
car.
so it was hot rod. The epitome of a hot rod, but just wrapped in this just gorgeous body.
Big motor
and
shoved in a
bespoke.
tiny
Yeah,
bit.
so, and it felt it. Like you have to wrestle it around, and it sounded amazing. And so I would just absolutely. I was lucky to spend a few days in one years ago, so I would love to just spend the rest of my life in one. But then I'm a muscle car guy, like like that's how we met.
Sure.
Like because I worshipped you in your muscle car
Jeepers.
era.
Yes.
But
Grief.
so I kind of I would do a '69, either Roadrunner or Boss 429 Mustang. Those are the two. So that would be. I would just switch both. But those are the two. I know it's super boring, but
Those are good
those
choices.
are the ones that just make me
Those are
the
good.
happiest.
But that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's just like music. There's so many different varieties and
Yeah.
selection that you
Yeah.
can listen to the thing that you like the most, that brings out your emotion, that brings out how you're feeling,
Yeah.
brings out how you want to feel.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with the automobile. Obviously, it's a potential mirror of the owner, what they like, how they wish to broadcast themselves, because we're all seen in the vehicle. But I can tell you, I know of a couple of particular cars that I have built or that I've been in that I was very, very happy to just be in it because it made me feel so good, and I really did not worry about how I was being perceived.
Could you give us a hint on one or two that?
No.
Come on.
Nope.
You took me for a ride in the Martini Mustang once.
The Martini Mustang is a lovely vehicle.
That changes you. Like
Yeah.
that car, that engine changes you.
Yeah,
so
I built a little 66 Mustang on a what if Ford's first racing, their first racing with a Mustang, they won the Tour de France race in France in October of '64. So they were winning rallies over the seas, calling it a T5. They weren't allowed.
In Germany, they called it the
They were
T5.
not allowed to call it Mustang.
Yeah.
And so I did the Mustang as if Ford went rally racing, got a sponsorship by Martini, which I I love that library. And,
What's not to like?
right? So Ford had just won Indy with Lotus, with the Jim Clark, with that Ford Cam motor.
You bet.
So I was able to procure one of those from Ed Pink. And I said, well,
The right
Ford
guy.
just went
Yeah.
around a track for 500 miles, matted to the floor. We just did a durability test, so let's stick it in a rally car. So I built this Mustang as if Ford grabbed a whole bunch of parts from the 350R
the Indy
Mustang,
motor
Yeah,
with
like
the
put
you
the
said, a
Indy
what-if
motor in it.
car.
Yeah.
And it really came out fantastic. It won the Ford Design Award car of the show at SEMA. And it's epic to drive because you are controlling an IndyCar motor.
Yeah.
We converted it to EFI, and which is hidden pretty well. And Ed, of course, mellowed out the cams. So we had cams made because it's a little bit radical for the,
It
on
would
the
have been.
racetrack.
Street car, yeah.
But nevertheless, it's still a 9,000 RPM, and it's so epic to drive that thing. And I've got an illegal transmission from CNR that they built for NASCAR racing, and the whole transmission weighs like 64 pounds.
And it's tiny. It's like
And,
this big, yeah.
everybody else making transmissions yelled and argued and had it outlawed, but I got one. So it's like, it shifts like butter, but when it engages, it goes, right? It hits, even though to manually move it, there's no effort.
It's a satisfying feeling.
And so
to be in control of something like that.
It is a very visceral car.
Yeah.
And it does not want to be pampered around. You grab it by the scruff and you engage with it. And if not, it does not celebrate you. It does not get together with you. It's like, what are you doing? You know. But once you get up on it, it's like, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it's a like I said, it's very visceral. And it's neat because it's history. Where else are you, what other car you're driving around? I know downstairs you got Hermes T, but that ain't driving
Two of
like,
them.
That's right. But that ain't driving around like the Mustang's driving.
No, he's
But
not.
that gives you just a glimpse into, when I was trying to explain earlier what he builds, all of it is like that, just in all of the different directions you
Oh,
can
yeah.
imagine, but with those components, those unique components mixed together, and that's why
And it's fun.
it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. So I don't know, I've been thinking, I know my car for Exotica because I love every line on the car. If I was back in time and I was in a decision-making position of power and I could say, change that line on the blueprint, I wouldn't change a thing. Even though it's like anything from back when, they all have their mechanical woes. So nothing is perfect. But this car I could just stare at, let alone drive it. I am an absolute design lust with the Miura.
Oh,
I love that car.
Okay,
I
that's
love
easy
every
to-
line on that car.
You're a good company.
I love
Yeah.
everything about that car.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's not a bad line. It's not one like, well, that looks kind of dumb. No, everything's on the money.
you could walk completely around
Oh,
it and not
oof.
see.
I love when you open the
bad
doors,
angle.
it makes bull horns. Oh, you got to be kidding me. You know, you really?
Yeah,
you went that
Bertoni
far?
had it going on.
It just had
He
it going on.
was a master.
I love the floating headrests, how the seat, go look up a Miura interior. And the two bucket seats are bucket seats, but yet they're almost floating. And the headrests float. It's just decision after decision. It's just like, ah, my God.
Yeah.
Such a lovely car.
It led the way for
Oh,
supercars.
Yes, it did. And it's just, for me, everyone looks different. It is sex on wheels. That car just, boy, do I like that thing. To shadow you, I am a large Gaydon era Aston Martin fan.
Okay.
Large. I would have no problem agreeing with you on that 12, even though I could pick a variety of Vanquish, DBSs. That is
Big Grand
another
Tours,
car.
yeah.
That is another car that if I was allowed to be there during the design committee, I'd go, print that.
No notes.
I don't
Send it.
No notes. That is tied with another car, and this one I love a little bit more. And I think it is epically designed and still holds its own. But you could get in and drive it and have the matched luggage. Is a 550 Maranello.
Oh,
It's just big 12, gated stick, effortless, big long bonnet, got that GTO scoop on the front. Oh, the slots in the side. Again, nothing wrong. Just leave it. I would like it in dark blue, please, with a tan interior, so I kind of blend in. You don't even notice me, and
it's almost
let me
practical.
go to Sonoma. I'll just get on the 5 and drop it in 6 and go doop de doop de doo and be happy as a
About 3
clam.
minutes, you'll be there.
Yeah, it'll make some tracks, that's for sure. So I think those two are. It's not just car lust. I honestly can say for myself, I like every line on them.
Yeah.
I like how they were conceived. I like how they got executed. I'm very comfortable with their imaging, i.e., pull it behind a thin piece of wire or a thin piece of paper and turn a light on. And the silhouette itself is like, well, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you can get that basic and it still looks yummy, it's like, well, someone did that job right. You know, its own profile looks
Yeah.
good. And both of those cars, for me, are just 10 for 10s. You know?
I get it.
And the 550, you can actually drive around and
Turn the air conditioning on.
yeah, turn it on and drive it and foodle about and treat it like a car. You can in the mirror, but they're a little more fussy.
There's a lot more at stake in the mirror.
Yeah.
Well, even if I was a trillionaire and I could fix it anytime I wanted it, still they're not meant to be a Subaru. You know. So they've got their own inherent
They're not
whatevers.
meant for everyday transportation.
That was what I
But-
watched a deep dive documentary on that and how the building, because they built them in a barn, right? I mean,
Right.
they were like literally the hot rodders were putting these things together, and the build quality wasn't super high end of the time.
They're
Like you said, they were,
stick-welded.
they were not designed to be driven every
all
day.
hand panel beaded, which is really cool.
They were designed to
Oh,
just
yeah.
look
That's
exactly what
what
they look like.
contributes to their organic appearance because there's not, it's really easy to stamp metal.
Right. Well, even into the Countach years.
Yeah,
Those
even-
were still
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
You couldn't take fender off that one and put it on this one.
Yeah,
It wouldn't fit.
there's some Mercedes in the mid 1950s, like the 300S.
Right.
You couldn't do that too. If you ordered a door for your 300S, they would give you sort of a door, and then your body shop had
You
to
would fit-
trim it
finish it,
Form
and
to
yeah.
fit.
match and trim it out.
But I like that organic imperfection.
Well,
I
yeah.
think it adds to the car.
Yeah, there's sometimes it's not what you want because if you want something that's
Symmetrical.
in a way machine art,
Symmetrical.
that's kind of a good way to do it. But if you want something that's a little bit more, I don't know, approachable,
Earthy.
Yeah.
earthy. Human beings are organic beings,
Yes.
and why not like an organic object?
Yeah, and I tend to lean towards that, as exposed with the Mura. They just got that so right. They did a great job with the Aston years we're talking about. I think that they did it very restrained for a sports car, supercar.
Right.
A lot of restraint, a lot of tightness in the paneling. Every line has a purpose. It's clean. It advertises it perfectly what they're trying to express.
And I think that
I'll tell you what confuses me. A car that confuses me, even though everything has a reason, and this ducting is used for that cooler. Save it. I am not. Well, not send the hate mail to my email address. I'm not a real big fan, even though they just posted a 233 mile an hour average
that's right,
of the new Vet.
I saw that.
But that new Vet is like, so I'm like, what happened there? It's like 17 different supercars. They threw in a blender. It's like some Ferrari, some Lamborghini, and some, not even where that came from. And I know it's all got purpose, and I know it's computer aided and aero designed, and obviously the new numbers they just set.
Back up the
Back it up.
reasoning behind it. But
Go get a car that cheap that'll do 233
Right.
and come with a warranty.
Steve at Pure Vision.
That's pure.
Steve
That's
at
right.
PureVision
Send it.
at
Now, I
AOL.
didn't. Now, obviously, I'm
Send your
preaching the technical praise. The car turns the number, and for the dollar figure, I don't know what on this planet you could touch it.
Well, they said that it's the only car under $1 million that can do it right now.
Yeah, dude,
so that it happens
233.
right now. So
233,
at the
a
moment,
new
it's
Vet.
it's the only mask
Out of the box, right?
produced,
It was
yeah.
out of the box.
Yeah,
They
it's
didn't
a
even
stock
tweak
car.
it. It's just ugly. I said it. It's ugly.
Some
Ew.
executive drove it, so it wasn't even a pro driver. It was one of the guys to show how easy it was
That's
to
great.
do it.
They're sacrificing one
They
of their
did.
own
They were
already.
like,
you go ahead and do it. It's like
go ahead,
Mikey
boss.
with a life commercial.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who could live without? Get him to drive it.
Brian will drive it. Go ahead. Do I need a helmet? No. Go on. We'll notify your wife later. So I have gotten the sign, but I have a question for you because you deal so much with history, making sure history is correct, and you're around, as we've discussed, beautiful history. Is there anything coming out at all that you're like, oh, that's actually an attractive car? I would drive that. I would be seen in that. I would put that in the museum if there was a performance version of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that are sexy and wonderful to look at and good performing, but the whole idea about history is that time will tell.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You will never know.
It is the
People
great
say,
equalizer.
Well, everybody bought, and it's not to diminish the car, but because they built, 14,000 1976 Eldorado convertibles. It's like, well, an instant collectible, you and 13,999 other people. I think it was 14,000 was the number. Might have been 12, but things that it don't always work out that way. You look at DeLorean going, oh man, that's a great car. It's a sexy car. If it was the only one in the world and you had it, it would be. But every DeLorean looks like every other DeLorean.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You unless you bought one of the the two gold ones,
Right, I
which
saw
we
that
have.
downstairs. What is that,
own,
by the
which
way?
we own.
What is the gold
It's
on
24 karat gold plate.
on stainless steel?
Yes, to my knowledge, that's what they did. Somehow,
And it sticks. Okay.
that's what I'm to understand.
Huh.
I wasn't there when they were
Plating it.
developing the process, and I don't think anyone is run it through a lot of car washes
Question much, yeah.
to test
Oh, God, that's great.
the adhesive
Just put some
properties.
tape on
Take
it.
an intern,
Shit,
send an
it pulls
intern down
off.
to the car wash.
Yeah. Well, it's the only car we have whose value fluctuates with the precious metals market. So not everybody can say that.
Right. Okay, but truth. So is the car worth more because of the gold than the car itself?
Well, if the gold version,
Yeah,
of
that's
course,
what I mean.
it's worth more because it's unique. I drive a gold car. Great.
Good for you.
Huzzah.
I mean, aren't you special? What happens is, those cars really this car was never about transportation. The fellow that bought it had a bank in Texas, and he put it in a glass or a plexiglass cube in the lobby of his bank, and he said, there it is. And when he closed his bank or sold it off, he said, he wanted to give it to somebody who he knew would do right by it, and he chose us. It was very gratifying.
That's cool.
Very gratifying. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You know, they have these treasures, and they say, what's going to happen? My kids aren't really that interested in it.
Right. I need it to go to a good home.
You know, I
And
could
share with more people.
Sure.
yeah,
keep that
you know,
going,
and
yeah.
let's give it to a legitimate museum that collects, preserves, and interprets according to a very high standard.
Yeah, clearly a very high standard.
Yeah, well, we're very selective. You know, people look to museums and they want us to tell them what's important. We did a Mustang exhibition, talking about Mustangs earlier. Everybody said, "You're not going to have a Mustang 2, are you? Those things, forget it. Those aren't even
Well, they had the Cobra too.
even worth." I said, "That's one that we are absolutely going to have." And you know, we had such trouble finding one that was in displayable condition. We ended up buying one from a woman in Palm Springs who's letting it go. It was a 4-cylinder. That was the only year you couldn't get a V8 in a Mustang, was 74. It was a 4-cylinder, 3 on the floor, grocery getter.
Echo box, yeah.
And I am telling you, I drove that thing back from Palm Springs.
Did you?
And what
Was it a hoot?
You could say that. What
that was polite.
it exemplifies the difference between being noticed and being looked at.
Right. I love that.
I was looked
Or
at
loathed?
in that car, but I thought it was great. That car did for Ford what no other car could have.
Right.
They sold the buckets of those things, just like Fairmonts, just like
My mom
so
had
many
one
other
when I
things.
was a
People
kid,
don't like
yeah.
Pintos.
I spent a
People
lot of
give
time.
them a bad time all day, but they certainly helped Ford through a rough patch.
Along those lines, though, so your book that you're doing is how does that passion for the history and the cars and stuff come into the book that you're writing?
Well, Los Angeles is home to a very unique kind of person. It's really Los Angeles in California is really the last place to be settled. You know, I mean, excluding Alaska and Hawaii, obviously, by on the continental United States, and it was dreamers would come here, still do. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, well, I'm gonna get out of Oklahoma. There's way too much dust for me. I'm getting in probably a Ford Model T of some dilapidated condition, likely. And I'm driving to California where I can, it's sunny all the time, no dust, and I can eat oranges whenever I want off the tree. So, and and those kind of people, they tend to attract each other. And there's so much inspiration here because the cars, it's not just the cars themselves and what you can do with them, but it's where you can go. We have the mountains, the deserts, the beach,
Sure.
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
We have
a lot of options within
we have a lot of
hour, an
options.
hour.
You put on your car, whichever one you feel like is right for the day, and you go out and you present yourself in it, and you have a good time the way that you feel like you want to that day.
Agreed.
But so that's what you're going to try to share, like the different people in the book that will.
Well, what I'm doing, and I'm talking about all kinds of different people, hundreds. Let's just say there was a lot of sharing going on. Like people would move from one town to another. Like a guy named Volney Beardsley worked for the Moreland automobile truck manufacturer in Burbank, and then ended up going on to build his own electric car. Then after that failed, he went on to other things. And but what the book is about, mostly about the cars, and it shows the inventiveness of people. There's a car called the Brown Winstanley. It's got a 5-cylinder radial engine that's spun while the crankshaft stayed. You're thinking there's another one made in Dubuque, Iowa, called the Adams Farwell. That's another 5-cylinder that's spun on.
What year are we talking? What time frame?
The Brown Winstanley was 1911, 1912.
That the actual cylinders would spin in the crankshaft state.
And the one you're thinking of, the Adams Farwell, it spun on a vertical axis, so that you would sit right over the engine that was spinning.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's 1906, I think, is the only one that survives.
Wow.
But it's try everything. You got to try everything.
So you want to share and highlight some of those unique spirits
Yeah,
that were
because
trying to do
people
that.
that come to California, they're not going to build what you could get in Detroit. You know, God bless them. I mean, those are the cars that sell, and everybody needs those cars. They make a lot of sense. But you don't come to California and dream of a Buick. Now, God bless Buicks. I had one, and I loved it, and I still like them. But you don't come to California and dream that you're going to, build something mainstream. You come here to live a different life. You come here to live the dream.
I did,
A.
actually.
Yeah.
That's
Exhibit
very
A
correct.
right here.
Exhibit A.
Yeah, look who I'm talking to.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know I got to wrap it up, but what to be expected from the future with you and or the Petersen? Cool stuff coming down the pike, like your book. Other stuff going on that might be coming here in the museum that, like, hey, in 6 months we're going to do.
Well, what I can tell people, because I never know really when they're going to listen or watch these kinds of things, but what I can
Sure.
tell you is that the Petersen Automotive Museum always changes. Always changes.
When is the
We're-
rotation of ideas? Like the lowrider
if you
will
come-
be here for how long?
If you come, probably 9 months to a year, something like that.
Oh, okay.
But we have, 8 or 10 galleries, and each gallery changes. So if you come back in a couple of months, you'll see enough new cars to make it worth your while.
So constantly evolving.
Yeah, a lot of automotive museums are like, this is what we have, like it or not,
And that's that.
enjoy. We'll put
Right.
a label in front of it, and it's great for someone like me, because I enjoyed looking at there. I mean, I get it,
Right.
But maybe my date, that I'm taking
Yeah.
isn't going to get it quite like I do.
Or appreciate it like you do.
As a
appreciate it.
local, I cherish coming here as frequent as possible. It's been a year since I was here last time, so I saw the Porsche, and then I came today, got to see the lowriders, and I absolutely love the change. It's exciting to me. Like tonight, I was
yeah.
here early, and me and the crew guys were walking around checking out cars. It was
it's
amazing. So,
there's the beating heart of the museum pulsates, these cars through it. And people come and they like I say, they look to museums to tell them what they should kind of be thinking about and what's important. And we consider that a really awesome responsibility. So we're very careful, we're very selective about not only what we choose to put in an exhibit, but the exhibit itself.
yeah.
Indeed.
It shows. As us car culture people, it shows. It's a treasure to us here in LA.
Thank you. It's gratifying to hear that.
Well, I like it.
I'm glad. I had a hunch. You're very kind.
Gentlemen, enjoyed it.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for your time.
My great pleasure.
So I need to say bye to all the nice people who have been putting up with me and listening to your amazing stuff. And what is the title of the book?
It's called Defying Detroit Automobile Manufacturing in Southern California. Nice short title. Easy to
Right,
remember.
that's easy. Just Google that.
Defying Detroit.
Define Detroit will probably get, or Define Detroit book will probably get you
Yeah,
there.
defying. Detroit.
Defying.
Yeah, it's like here.
Or defying.
Yeah,
I
defying.
like
against
that.
it.
Yeah,
They're going
it's
against
I like it even better.
They're going
it's,
against
oh,
the
I'm,
man.
I'm glad we got to
Yeah,
make
see,
that,
this is important. Why
that
I
clarification.
why I do reviews.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm Steve Strope. This was Car Guy Confessions. Unfortunately, without Jeff Smith, but I hope I filled in halfway decent. We are brought to you by arp-bolts.com, and we'd also like to, of course, thank the Petersen Museum for this unbelievable background. I'm sorry, you're not getting better. You're not. So stay tuned, keep checking in, and we'll bring you some more stuff.